Yo, what's good? I appreciate everybody for tuning in and joining this live. It's something, a video that I wanted to watch. I haven't watched it yet. A video I want to watch that I think we got to get through. And it is more legal problems for Mr. Sean Combs. Before we dive in, I'm Marcus. I'm a licensed attorney. Here over at this channel, we do attorney reactions to current events, trending news, finance topics, whatever it is we catch that we see that just is kind of interesting or that people have an interest in. I am a licensed attorney, licensed in several jurisdictions. None of those jurisdictions amount to me being your counselor at law. So, long story short, that means if you're looking for legal or financial advice, always seek a professional in your area. This is infotainment purposes. Now, we all are aware of the mess that Diddy is in right now. He's facing criminal charges. He can't get a bond set. He can't get a bond set at all. So oh, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, common sense. I appreciate it. Anytime it's late like that or I get from work late, I'm just not taking off my suit. I just jump on because once I changed into clothes, that's a wrap. So I was like, let me go ahead and jump on now. Whatever it is, what it is. Hey, shout out to everybody in the chat. Oh yeah. You already know 50 Cent is he's an extreme capitalist. Oh, I gotta give a round of applause to Common Sense with the first chat of the day, as always. But yeah, we're just gonna dive in to see what this attorney is talking about. This attorney who is, because I kind of looked him up. I wanted to see, well, what did he did? What was his previous cases? Hey, I appreciate it. I appreciate it, Zachary. And so he previously represented Governor Rick Perry in Texas. He also represented one of the plaintiffs that filed litigation against at the time Houston Texans quarterback Deshaun Watson. We actually did a video on him where I talked about his 27th lawsuit, I think it was, because he keeps getting into drama. So let's go ahead and dive in. I know, right? That's funny. Let's go ahead and dive in the video. I don't want to keep you all too long. This video got a little bit of time on it. So whoever hang in there, hang in there. It is what it is. As always, I appreciate everybody. And if you get some content of value, like, subscribe, comment, share, thumbs up, thumbs down. It is what it is. Do what you do. Let's go ahead and cue up this video so we can see what is going on in this case with these allegations. All alleged victims. I made sure to put that in my thumbnail. I say everybody saying victim. You're not a victim until you're found liable or a person is convicted by a jury or during a bench trial. So, alleged victims. Let's dive in and see what this attorney is talking about. Shout out to him. He has a excellent marketing. His phone number, his law firm in the background, all good moves. Real smart man.
My name is Tony Busby. I'm a lawyer here in Houston. I'm licensed in Texas and in New York. And I'll introduce other members of our team as they speak. As many of you know, our law firm has been at the forefront of some of the most important litigation in the United States. We like the tough cases. We thrive in the complicated cases. We've handled over the last 25 years some very big and very important cases. I believe that this one may surpass them all. There are many facets to this. The conduct we will describe today occurred over more than 20 years. There are many people and many entities involved. And we're going to follow this evidence wherever it takes us. We will find the silent accomplices. We will expose the enablers who enabled this conduct behind closed doors.
Very first issue, conduct that's 20 years old, you're going to have some statute of limitation problems. So I'm assuming that the 120 people they got all probably have current cases. I mean, you probably still want to talk to the other people, but I'm assuming they all have current cases unless there's some statute where they file these lawsuits that allow them to revive old cases like New York and California had when all the celebrities were getting lawsuits. That's funny.
We will pursue this matter no matter who the evidence implicates. These brave victims who have stepped forward deserve nothing less. The biggest secret in the entertainment industry that really wasn't a secret at all has finally been revealed to the world. The wall of silence has now been broken, and victims are coming forward. Our team has had at this point more than 3,285 individuals contact us.
God damn.
With people claiming to have been victimized by Sean Combs. After vetting,
all right, real quick, let's just be honest here. Like, hey, I'm not saying that these alleged victims, don't have a factual basis for their claim, but once you're in an actual shit show like Diddy's in, you're gonna get all of the legitimate claims, and then you're gonna get all of the people who are trying to attach themselves to this case. So they said they got over 3,000 persons who said they had some type of contact or potential litigation that they could file against Diddy. Like, I'm not saying is there no legitimate claims in there, but I'm saying there's probably a mixed bag of legitimate claims and BS claims that are just money grabs, because you make yourself vulnerable, and even if the case is bogus, you still waste money on just defending the case, having the attorney show up. 120 cases, if they file this all individually, he's going to have to get a whole separate law firm just to handle these cases and not even look at his criminal stuff.
We now represent 120 individuals who intend to bring civil claims in civil court against Sean Diddy Combs, as well as claims against many other individuals and entities that we will name as defendants as we file these individual cases. And you should know, to the extent the clients feel comfortable, we also intend to make these individuals available to the authorities, specifically to the FBI.
Probably not a class action. Just because if we scroll down, it's 100 alleged victims. From what I saw in the media, it said 120 potential cases. Normally, if it's a class action, you would only have like 2 or 3 named plaintiffs. Like, these 3 people represent the entire class, and the lawsuit will be in these names. But from the way that it's written in the title, it looks like it's going to just be a shitload of individual lawsuits, which is wild and completely overburdensome. I'm not familiar with his firm. Maybe he got the capacity to do it, but I'm thinking from the way that it's titled, and I've seen it written, it looks like 120 separate lawsuits. And a class action would be weird for the type of civil claims that I think they would bring. I don't know if I ever seen a class action for something like that.
And you should also know a few of them have already been spoken to by the FBI. Now, before we discuss the nature of the claims and claimants themselves, let me comment on the large volume of calls we have received since our first announcement. Even before the indictment of Sean Combs, we had received a small volume of calls and had screened a handful of cases. After the indictment of Sean Combs and the announcement that we were pursuing these claims, the floodgates opened. People who wouldn't otherwise, for a variety of reasons, are now stepping forward to make their voices heard and to pursue justice. But no, most of these people are scared. They fear backlash in their communities. They fear backlash in their own families. They are afraid of retaliation from the perpetrators and their associates.
Are other people standing beside them, attorneys in this firm?
Personal safety. I expect that through this process, many powerful people will be exposed. Many dirty secrets will be revealed. We know what we are potentially up against. And as is always the case in situations like this, when celebrities involved, people can be downright mean and nasty. You would be shocked at the length fans will go, no matter the evidence to the contrary, to defend celebrities they love. mean, there's a reason for this word fans. They're fanatics. I've personally already been threatened multiple times on social media. And when I agreed to pursue this, I expected as much. This isn't my first rodeo. But victims who step forward to have their voices heard should not be subjected to that kind of conduct. They should not be targeted.
Damn, we got some big.
I want to say this, and I want to be clear about it. Although we are vetting each call as stringently as we can, I always start with a mindset that I believe victims.
That's what I'm thinking.
I believe victims because I understand the tremendous courage it takes to step forward. So if you're watching this, please hear me. If you're out there and you have been victimized, you are not alone. There is a great strength in numbers. You can seek redress. You can obtain justice. We can help you, and we will help you. That being said, as stated, we are vetting every call that we receive. We have had to turn away some.
All right, real quick, let me just take this question right here real quick. Wouldn't class action have advantages for victims because the first lawsuit will deprive everyone else of financial relief? I could see how you could establish a class of victims, but I don't know. You can't. I think it'll be difficult to establish a class. One, you got to establishing the class is actually a very difficult thing to do. Also, the thing that's going to make it problematic is I'm sure each lawsuit could potentially have different defendants. You'll probably have some lawsuits that'll have, for example, Sean Combs and person A. Another lawsuit may have person A, B, C, D, and E, Sean Combs. I think it's just too many factors and variables. I think it'll be too messy to make it a class and to actually get a class certified. Before you file a class action lawsuit, you actually got to establish the facts with the court to get a class of people certified. And we'll probably take a look at that. That's actually a good question. I'll pull up an image or something on the internet or open source research that'll just say, hey, you can certify a class by doing these things so you can know how to certify it. But sometimes that could actually make filing the class action more difficult. If I bring individual lawsuits for 10 people, I can just file those lawsuits for 10 people, 20 people. If I actually want to file a class action lawsuit, I have to go through the process of actually proving that I have a certified class that the court will find is an actual class before I can even bring the lawsuit. So it just adds an extra step. So, I mean, I see how you can, I guess, contemplate a class action, but it creates an additional hurdle. So it creates an additional hurdle. And let's just be honest, I think right now, Diddy is in a really vulnerable place where it may be advantageous for him to cut a few checks and just try to keep it moving and focus on this criminal case. Because I'm telling you right now, if I were him, I would give a flying shit about these civil cases. I'd be like, no, I want to wait. I would try to postpone that stuff as long as possible and not pay anything because I would focus 100% on my resources solely on working on my criminal case. But yeah, we'll take a look at the Regor. Yeah, it do look a little iffy. It look a little sketch. But we'll take a look at what they would have to do to certify class before we go super, super deep into this video. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if I was an older white guy, I would probably do the Pat Riley look too. I like that. That Pat Riley look, it kind of make it look like you like a shifty New York attorney or something.
For each, we ask for corroboration. For each, we ask for the identity of witnesses. We also have collected pictures, videos, texts. We check venues. We check dates. We want to corroborate that the claims being made have legitimacy and merit. We have on staff now a former detective from the Major Offenders Unit of Houston Police Department who is helping us vet each claim. We're using our common sense. We're being stringent because, as I said, these are not easy cases. They're very tough. The process is hard, and in some cases, the process is very lengthy. These cases are hard to prove. Many times, it's the victim's word against the alleged perpetrator. Each of these victims will no doubt be publicly attacked by the alleged perpetrators, and in some cases, the general public. The feckless and cowardly keyboard warriors love to attack. We know what we're up against. We did not enter this fray blindly. I wish it was my last such fray. I wish this type of behavior wasn't so pervasive, but it is what it is, so we will press on. As I said, our law firms have been retained by 120 individuals at this point to pursue cases in civil court against Sean Diddy Combs. You should know, in this group, it is evenly divided between males and females. There are 60 males and 60 females who have joined us to pursue these claims as plaintiffs. In this group, 62% identify as African American, 30% are white, and the remainder are Hispanic or Asian. The victims are from more than 25 states. The majority are from California, New York, Georgia, and Florida. And I want to focus on the ages of these victims. When we talk about the ages of the victims when the conduct occurred, it's shocking. Our youngest victim at the time of the occurrence was 9 years old. We have an individual who was 14 years old. We have one who was 15.
That's crazy.
25 of the 120 individuals who are plaintiffs in these cases were minors at the time of the acts complained of. The time frame of the acts complained of is very wide. The conduct at issue spans from the years 1991 all the way till this year, 2024.
Damn them old.
If you wonder why there are so many alleged victims, that's your answer. We're talking about more than 25 years of this.
All right, real quick, I'm gonna go ahead and read something. I think it's easier just to read it than to pull it up. But let's go to the class action. Let's read about it. And class action is normally a civil matter. I saw Diary of a Recovering Fatty. I love your name. Yeah, normally it's a class action is filed in the class for a civil lawsuit. Is no class action for criminal matters. And I wanted to read this real quick. I pulled it up while this video was playing. Essentially, rather than having every plaintiff present his or her case, representative plaintiffs are selected as a spokesperson for the class. Procedure: depending on the state, a class is certified after the court initiates this process or the plaintiff files a motion to this effect. The court must certify a class before it can proceed as a class action. The court assesses if the requirements discussed are met. Certification means that the court has determined that a class action is the best option to manage the multiple claims. Class certification may result when injunctive relief and another form of equitable remedy is available. In class certification determinations, the judge is provided with a certain amount of discretion. The case moves as pretrial procedures. If the class is certified, the process does not constitute that the judge believes that the defendant is liable or that the jury will find the defendant so. Instead, it's a matter of determining whether there are enough similarities in a number of cases that justify joining them together. The requirement for certification, although states can vary in some respect, most states have the following requirements for a class to be certified. Class action lawsuits, and it's kind of similar process, federal stuff. I've never had a class action lawsuit because I wasn't the chasey type of attorney. the chasey type of attorney. Class action lawsuits are not for cases where there are only a few plaintiffs. Instead, there must be too many plaintiffs. It said, however, many cases have allowed class actions to certify with at least 40 or more plaintiffs, and the class must have similar questions of law or fact that is common to the class. This is to ensure that it will be efficient to handle all of the claims in one case. I think that's the reason why I wouldn't do it right there. Well, two reasons. I think that's okay. It says the representative plaintiff must have the same claims or defense that are typical of the class. For example, if the lawsuit alleges a business, blah blah blah, we don't need to go into that. I think those are the I think those are the two underlying problems. Um, I I think the underlying problem with certifying the class and having a class action lawsuit is one, it creates an extra hurdle. Why would I want to have to get a class certified, then have the court certify the class in order for me to be able to lawsuit when I could just file lawsuits individually? So one, I skipped that step that could potentially be unnecessary. Two, I don't think it necessarily makes it efficient and effective. The point of a class action lawsuit is it's very similar conduct that's occurring. So normally you'll see it if Wells Fargo, I use Wells Fargo because they're always doing fuck stuff to their customers. But if Wells Fargo is overcharging clients for withdrawal fees, and there's thousands of people affected, in that situation, it's generally the same fact pattern, the same instance, even though the dates that the actions happen may vary for each person, is exactly the same. But in this case, you can have victims with different defendants who were present at different times. You can have different locations. You can have different means. You can have some means where victims were initially paid for services and then held against their will. You can have other facts where people were drugged and were not able to give consent due to the being under the influence. You can have another situation where someone, instead of drugs or something like that or compensation, it was a situation where force was used or coercion through threats of, not providing the money. I think the facts will just be too random for effective class action lawsuit, in my personal opinion. I think the facts will just be too messy.
This type of conduct. Now, although most of the victims who have stepped forward were victimized after 2015, this has been going on for a very long time. Now, when you think about the fact that some of this conduct occurred 25 years ago, and you wonder why would it take somebody so long to step forward, I want to remind you that many states in the United States have recognized that it's very difficult for a victim to step forward and to make these types of allegations when something very terrible has happened to them. I'll use New York, the state of New York, as an example. The state of New York has specific statutes in place that revive claims that are even claims that would typically be not able to be brought, that it revives such claims, and they can be brought even 25 to 30 years later. Because there's a recognition there in New York and California and other states that it's very difficult for a victim to come forward. And I would respectfully suggest.
I mean, I don't know. Credibility of the attorney is in the eye of the beholder. I mean, you're gonna get what I believe Sis Maui stated was, you're gonna get the ambulance chasers who found an opportunity to just like, let's just file a bunch of shit, and if he settles 10 out of 100, if he settles 20% of the cases we file, that'll be a win on us because all we're doing is filing a lawsuit. Because I'm be honest, I would call their bluff. I just don't think. I mean, if Diddy's probably not a billionaire, but he's probably still pretty close to $1 billion. 120 lawsuits. You know the actual amount of human capital that takes to file. You know how much work it is to actually file a lawsuit, do the investigation. It's so much work. I would be like, okay, y'all want to file 120 lawsuits? Let's go. Like you could play tough ball and say, unless I'm gonna see if y'all got the resources to file them. I'm gonna challenge y'all with so many fucking motions that y'all head gonna spin, especially if y'all. And I mean, I don't know how many attorneys they have at the Busby law firm. We could take a look, but that's actually a legal tactic that's used, especially by large firms or persons with monies. You see it all the time with pharmaceutical companies. They try to overwhelm you with work and motions because they know, well, the other side has very limited resources and that bank account is damn near unlimited. So let's see if we can drown them and see how long they can keep their head above water. So that is a tactic that's used a lot of times.
That's the only reason many of these people are coming forward, because they see other victims coming forward. And it gives them some comfort that, hey, I won't be the only one. and I expect more victims will come forward. You know, there's an old saying, it says, a lie has great speed, but truth has endurance. The acts complained of in these cases that we're going to file occurred primarily in New York, either Manhattan or the Hamptons, or occurred in California, primarily in Los Angeles, or in Florida, primarily in Miami. Most of these events and incidents occurred at parties, typically after parties, or album release parties, New Year's Eve parties, 4th of July parties, something they called a puppy party, the all-white party, although several of these events occurred at auditions. Many times, especially young people wanting to break into the industry, were coerced into this type of conduct in the promise of being made a star, or in the promise of having Sean Combs listen to their tape, or even let them read for Sean Combs. You should know that some of this behavior occurred at well-known venues in New York City. Some of this behavior occurred at private residences of people that we all know. Some of this behavior occurred at hotels that we're all familiar with. You should know that more than 55% of the victims filed reports, reported this conduct to either the authorities, that is the police.
All right, that's wild. Like, if that in fact is accurate, more than 55 of the alleged victims filed some type of report. That's actually going to be wild, because that brings up a whole different set of questions. If reports were filed with law enforcement and hospitals for injuries and things like that, and nothing happened, because hospitals have obligations to report certain matters to the authorities. Like, you can't just walk in a hospital and you got shot in the ass and you like, just patch me up and send me home. Don't call the cops. Like, the hospital has certain obligations to report certain matters that show up at their emergency room to law enforcement. So that's going to be interesting. And I'm just going to assume we know what the MO was here. If these complaints were actually made, these reports were actually filed, these medical examinations were actually filed, it's all payola. When you got a little bit of bread, when you got some bread, you can make a lot of stuff go away temporarily. Can't make it go away forever, but you can make a lot of shit go away temporarily. And I don't know. I'm just not I don't think it's a class thing. We all seen the class action lawsuits, and they send you a notice in the mail, and you like, yeah, I had a Nextel chirp phone. I'm gonna name myself as a part of the lawsuit, and then everybody get $50, but the three named plaintiffs, they all get like $200,000. Like, I mean, I don't know. I think I see where you can make an argument. I just think that I don't think you have enough facts to certify one class. You may have to have 2 or 3 separate classes. I think it'll just be an administrative nightmare. Both are administrative nightmare. I mean, filing 120 fucking lawsuits is an administrative nightmare. But I think the class will probably be more of an administrative nightmare.
Or to hospitals.
That's crazy if that's
in the
true.
Process of collecting with our team assistants, medical records, reports that were made to the authorities. And I've already said that some of the individuals in this group did in fact talk to the FBI. You should know that several of the individuals, and when I say several, I mean many, who did in fact seek medical treatment were drug tested, and drugs were found in their system, weird drugs that you probably never heard of. One in particular that continues to pop up is a drug called xylazine, or trank,
I know what
which,
that is.
based on our research, is known as a horse tranquilizer. Now, there's been a lot of reports that we're filing a class action. This is not a class action. Class action is when 1 or 2 people file a case on behalf of a group of people. That's not this. These cases will be individual cases. Each case will live and die on its own merit. These cases will be filed individually, one plaintiff against whoever the defendants were involved in the case. Each case may be filed in one venue like California. Another case may be filed in New York. One case may sue just Sean Combs, but multiple other people. One case may sue a range of people. I would expect most, though, to be filed, as I said, in New York and Los Angeles.
And real quick to this comment, sis, um, when it comes to what's going to be alleged, I don't even know what they're going to allege. I'm assuming it's going to be like some type of false imprisonment, intentional infliction of emotional distress, some type of battery or something to that, some type of battery or assault, depending whatever they call it, depending on where it's filed at. Most times with that, it's not really more of a focus on the actual loss of income. They're going to focus on not actual damages, but punitive damages. Like okay, yeah, you, if you went to a Diddy party and Lord forbid something terrible happened to you, and if something terrible happened to you, and like, oh, you toughed it out, you took a week off from work because you were down and out, but you, ever since you can't. I remember seeing one victim in one of the cases talk about how they had like a string of failed relationships because of that conduct. They had like all these like intimacy and issues and all of these things. That's where the damage is going to come from. It's going to come from the punitive damages for punishing them for that conduct, and it's going to come from the emotional harm suffered, the toll it took on you as a person, the toll it took on the people you had relationships with. So it's definitely going to be more about that than the loss of income. The people who probably have like, I don't know, who would have a good loss of income claim? Like maybe if it was a situation where a business interest was damaged because there was some type of, okay, if you don't capitulate to uh whatever my wants and needs are, I'm going to ruin your career, and you can have some type of proof, something like that, then you'll be looking at lost wages. But generally they're going to go to pain and suffering route, uh punitive damages and all of that. That's going to be with a bag lies, so to speak.
Now, I know this. Many of you came here thinking or hoping or perhaps believing that I may start naming names.
Oh,
That
that was
day will
cool.
come,
Thank you. I
but it won't be
appreciate both of
today.
y'all for that.
The day will come when we will name names other than Sean Combs, and there's a lot of names. It's a long list already.
See, when you say this shit right here, I'm gonna just be like, you putting it out there real big. When you hold a press conference with your phone number in the back, talking about all these 120 cases, not a class action lawsuit. Now you talk about his names, is a long list of names. It better be somebody with like, it has some name recognition. If not, don't, because if not, this is all disingenuous. This is all to create a buzz, and I'm not a fan of that. So, when you put it out there that you have names, you better be able to stand on that shit. Like and I'm assuming, I don't think this guy. I mean, I'm gonna say I don't know him, but I'm assuming that he's not an idiot. And so I don't know. I don't think any attorney would generally, well, some probably would, but I don't think any attorney worth their salt would say something like that if they didn't have something that they could stand on. That would be absolutely ridiculous to put that out there and not have any basis to say it.
And of course, I already know who some of these individuals are, but because of the nature of this case, we're going to make damn sure that we're right before we do that. But the
Good
names
question.
that we're going to name, assuming that our investigators confirm and corroborate what we've been told, are names that will shock you.
All right, see, he just lost me right there. you talk about all these names, then your very next comment is, assuming that investigators corroborate and confirm what we were already told. To me, that means you ain't got shit. You just, I'll just be honest. Like when you say that, that means to me you don't have shit. You just going off the stories that were told. So right now, I'm assuming from this, unless he expressly says that he got like video footage or some type of evidence that he dives into. From everything I'm hearing right now, it sounds like a bunch of people came into your office and you were like, yo, who got the best story that we could probably use to secure the biggest bag with? I'm going to just be honest. Like, we're going to put out names, but we're going to put out names once we corroborate through investigation. That means that you ain't got shit. You just trying to blow smoke about how persons with names can be impacted or implicated in this just to kind of create a buzz. Now he may switch it up, but I'm not a fan of that. If you haven't corroborated shit, you shouldn't be saying anything about the names that you haven't corroborated. That's a bad look, and it's kind of stupid.
These are individual cases. There are indeed other perpetrators involved. They will be revealed when that particular individual case is ready to be filed. They already know who they are. And I'm talking here about not just the cowardly, but complicit bystanders. That is, those people that we know watched this behavior occur and did nothing. And I'm talking about the people that participated, encouraged it, egged it on. They know who they are. I call them the facilitators of foul play, willing participants in vile conduct. As we identify them, each will be part of this case as defendants. These defendants will not only include individuals.
I agree. I think that's a fair point. We talked about that earlier. Generally, where there's smoke, there's fire, but a lot of times everything isn't just a fire. You know what I mean? So I agree. 120 lawsuit, a percentage are going to be legitimate claims. A percentage are going to be bullshit and not be able to be corroborated. The problem with these types of lawsuits, like, I actually prefer to do like white collar investigations. And I remember once I was doing healthcare investigations and prosecutions, and there was a providers and pharmaceutical companies. So like, doctors had pill mills and all of this stuff. Those cases were a lot easier to do. White collar crimes, financial crimes, is because the evidence just lingers around. When you have, like, if somebody whips your ass, somebody whipped my ass, and I go to the authority, generally when it's some type of physical altercation, you have about 7 to 10 days to get the evidence. That during that period of 7 to 10 days is when the evidence is the strongest. Wounds healed, physical evidence can be contaminated. It can be contaminated so easy. People think they preserving evidence. I took it and threw it in a Ziploc bag. Well, you just ruined the evidence. You'd have been better off putting it in a paper bag. So I agree with that. I think it is going to be some people are money grabs. There are going to be some legitimate ones in here. We'll see how it flesh out. And nothing may ever come of this. This guy and his 120 people may just fucking vanish off into the woods. You never know.
Individuals, but would also include corporate entities who ultimately profited off of this culture and behavior. I'm looking at banks, pharmaceutical companies, hotels. We know that many of these individuals were paid cash. We know that many of these individuals involved, whether they were the ones being assaulted and abused, or they're witnessing other people being assaulted and abused and then paid and threatened and told to leave. Typically paid 10 grand in cash and told to leave. And then threatened as they were leaving. So in addition to Sean Combs, you should know the defendants in these cases we're going to file will include anyone, of course, who engaged in the assault or exploitation, anyone who participated in such in any way, anyone who encouraged or facilitated this conduct, anyone who was in the room and watched it happen, but made no effort to stop it, any venue or venue owner who was aware of what was going on, but failed to stop it, any individual or entity who knew about the conduct and benefited from it, but did nothing to report it or stop it, and any individual or entity who covered it up or helped cover it up. These people who know who they are should just come forward now. I would imagine, as we speak here, there are a myriad of people who are very nervous. You can't hide skeletons in the closet forever. I would expect there are many people out there right now who are desperately searching their memories as they delete their texts and data. Now, although these are...
I agree with that point. And I agree with that point. It's just going to be a hard-ass thing to prove. A physical assault. I've represented... At one point, I didn't represent, but we were tasked with... A place where I worked was tasked with investigating abuse in facilities that were funded by federal healthcare programs. So, I mean, you're talking about senior citizens, person with cognitive delays, developmental delays. And when they're in there, it's people who the nurse is supposed to rotate the person every 45 minutes and they don't, and the person develop bed sores. There's all type of assault and batteries of all varieties that occur. And that stuff is hard to prove because by the time you find out about it, it may be 2 or 3 days have already lapsed. 2 or 3 days have already lapsed. Then a lot of people don't want to come forward with that stuff. A lot of people are, and that's why a lot of people gave it flack. Remember when all the celebrities were getting lawsuits in California and New York, and everybody was like, "Oh, they got this statute that allow people to bring these old claims back." And a lot of people, I saw a lot of videos where people was like, "Oh, that's not fair. That's not fair. That thing is 15 years old, 20 years old. Why would they have this survivor statute that allow people to bring these old ass lawsuits?" Because when somebody deals with some type of trauma like that, nobody want to talk about that stuff. If the person is a youth and underage, and it happened, let's say this guy said as young as age 9. If something like that happened to a person at the age of 9, they could not be mature enough and have the the mental dexterity to discuss it until they're in their 30s. This should the lapse of that time deny them from having potential justice? No, I don't think so because everybody is different. Everybody, some people, something can happen and they'll talk about it immediately. I can remember sitting and observing this trial, and the trial was it's so hard to get conviction in these cases because most people don't want to testify because they're embarrassed. You go into court, you may have media in there, you're gonna have family members for that case and other cases in there. And it was a case where there was a the type of assault that if I say there was an SA involved and it was the victim was a male and the alleged perpetrator, well, the perpetrator was a male. And I remember sitting in that courtroom because I don't know if I had a case. I can't remember why I was in the courtroom. Maybe they were going to call something up after it was done. But as they had that victim on the stand, and it wasn't no like no, it wasn't a finesse, and it was like an assault of the most aggravating kind. And they held up some of the physical evidence, which was clothes that the victim wore. And as soon as they held those clothes up, and everybody in the jury saw it, saw how the clothes were just ripped off and everything. Everybody like was like, you can hear the entire courtroom like, even the judge was just like nobody really wanted to look at it, and nobody want to go testify and go through that process, have to relive the whole thing over. So I wasn't one of those people who were like, why is this statute allowing these people to bring these old ass claims? Because some people aren't ready to deal with the trauma if something did happen. Like, it is what it is. So I think there has to be some balance, but I'm definitely not opposed to those unique statutes that allow those victims to bring those claims after all of those years because I mean, you can't judge or put a time frame on when someone is ready to actually deal with that type of trauma. So, but yeah, definitely hard as hell to prove. It's going to be hard as hell to prove because physical evidence after about 7 days, unless you got photograph, videos, independent third party witnesses, that's even going to be sketched after such a long period of time has lapsed. Because if it's a witness for something that's 5 years old, I'm probably gonna rip them to shreds. You mean to tell me you remember this from 5 years ago? What was the license plate on your vehicle from 5 years ago? How could you remember this one incident, but you can't remember the license plate on the vehicle you drove every day 5 years ago for 6 months, for 12 months? I mean, it's going to be so problematic, I think. So it's going to be a uphill battle for this guy who clearly, to me, he seems like he's talking tough without anything being
In
cooperated.
fact, individual cases, there is a common theme, an MO, if you will. Typically, the victim is lured into a situation where he or she
Like Kevin
is
Hart,
given a drink.
DJ Khaled, allegedly.
Typically, that drink, reported by these victims, is apparently laced with something. Once that drink takes effect, the perpetrators perform all kinds of sexual acts on the victims. many times passing him or her around as other people watch and enjoy the
Right.
show, and then leave the victim ashamed, confused, injured, and wondering what happened. When the victim reaches out, he or she is told not to say anything. Sometimes there are threats of physical
Oh,
violence,
that's the
or
worst.
financial
Having
repercussions,
to watch that type of
or
discovery
bodily
is the
harm.
worst. Real quick to that point, that's actually a good point, Justin. I've I've known people in the military. Right now, I know another attorney who was a JAG attorney in the military. Now, when I was in the military, it was way before law school. I was a shoot 'em up, bang bang kind of guy. But I know attorneys right now who the only types of cases that they worked like during their time in the service were like those SA cases, those assault type cases, and they have just as much PTSD from having to talk to those victims, watch that type of footage. They have just as much PTSD. Honestly, I remember expressly telling someone like this. I was like, "Oh, I would much rather have my PTSD than that." I was like, "I would much rather have dealt with going to war and doing what you need to do to survive than have to spend 3 or 4 years just talking to victims of these types of heinous crimes." Like, nah. So that's actually a really good point. It's that not only do the victims have to be able to overcome it, but the people who repeatedly just dive into this stuff and hear these stories and have to try to develop relationships so they can get these people to relive that is a fucking lie. I would never want to do that shit. Like, no, I would never want to do those types of cases. Like 24/7, I'm just that guy. That's my job. Nah, I couldn't do that.
Claims we intend to bring will include the following: violent sexual assault or rape, sexual abuse, facilitated sex with a controlled substance, false imprisonment,
Do the other people
compelling prostitution,
talk? Okay.
sexual misconduct, dissemination of video recordings,
All right, we know all that. Let me fast forward
victimized
because I want
by
to know
this
who the
type
other
of
people
conduct.
are.
And she has some important words, and I hope you'll pay close attention. I think it
Real quick.
looks like individually. I want to bring forward Carrie Paul. She is a national victim advocate who helps victims
What?
who have been victimized by this.
Very skilled at power and control, the foundation of abuse. They seek victims who are
No.
vulnerable, such
Okay, we're gonna skip that.
Co-counsel Andrew Van Arsdale. We've created a sexual abuse hotline, and I want him to visit with us just a few moments about how that works.
No, we're gonna
kind of
skip
volume.
that.
Olivia Rivers from the Texas Association Against Sexual Assault, and let her visit with you a few moments about these types of cases.
It was just him. That was weird.
Thank you.
What?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Q Olivia Rivers.
Real quickly before we close here, about some specific.
Why were they
instances
even there?
without disclosing the victim's name? You probably know that depending on the age of the victim,
They're gonna do
you can file these cases, these individual cases,
John
under
Doe,
Jane Doe or John
yeah.
Doe. Each state is different in that respect. Typically, there is a balancing test, like the public's right to know the name of the victim and plaintiff versus.
Nah, I think we're gonna end that right there. I think we're gonna end that right there. And let's go ahead and talk about it. Let me address some of these questions. And I got another video that I think is a little bit more deep of a dive. But yeah, hey, that might have been promotional material. Shout out to him for getting me to hype up his firm. Shout out to him for getting me to hype up his firm. I wasn't sitting through that. I thought the other people were attorneys, but they were like victim rights advocates and all of that. Nah, we're not about to go there. I feel like that's a little bit too crazy. Yeah. I do hope he would truly be this thorough in calling people out and not letting people settle if they did wrong, call them to the carpet. They're going to try to settle if they had said, Diary of a Trump lawyers. They have been disbarred. Also, some traumas can cause amnesia while the brain and mind protect itself to realize later that this happened to me. Yeah, like you can go through trauma and you will make up a fake narrative of events and have no clue that it's a fake narrative. You're like, oh no, that's not what happened. This is what happened. Everybody else could be like, no, you don't remember what happened. And no, it can happen for any type of trauma where your mind, I mean, the human body is an amazing I guess I would say a amazing invention. Like it has a way of automatically trying to protect itself from harm. The same way if you cut yourself, you develop a scab on your hand, your brain functions the same way. It's trauma that you're dealing with. Your brain will can give you or make you believe a false narrative of what happened as a coping mechanism to actually deal with that trauma or repress the negative emotions and feelings that you suffer from event. I mean, it's a I don't know. It's a wild situation. Also depends on the laws at the time of the incident were in place too. For a time, a boyfriend or husband could violate their spouse without consequences. It was deemed a domestic problem. Yeah, that's fair. But you can keep drowning or without having your facts in order yet to get your books in order before splitting speculations without facts. You're a lawyer, man. Do better. Some people don't care. I think it's about 50. I mean, I think it might be 70-30. I mean, like I'm not saying, hey, if you're an actual legitimate victim and you have allegations, you hey, I wish you the best. I hope you're entitled to whatever you get in the eyes of the law. But we got to be honest. A lot of people do a straight money grab too. 17 different lawyers have been sanctioned over failed lawsuits brought by the former president behalf. So attorneys will bring they'll bring frivolous lawsuits if they think that th- literally this is how law firms work, right? If you call a law firm, they'll have you talk to an intake person who will get your summary of a case, and then they'll take that summary and run it to an attorney. An attorney is going to look at it, and when they get the summary, they're going to be like, okay, does this person actually have a legal cause of action? Okay, like, is there an actual legal claim that we could file based on these facts? Then you're gonna know, okay, if if they have a legal cause of action, what evidence do they have to support it? That's going to be the next question. The next question is, who is the defendant? Is the defendant judgment proof? If it's a broke ass defendant, ain't nobody doing anything. If it's a defendant who got a deep pocket, or at the time of an offense, they were on the clock, so you can sue the employer for the acts of the employee. They're going to look at all of those things. And then the last thing they're going to look at is what is the likelihood of litigation? If this story is true and we could get corroborating evidence, or we could get enough evidence to where we have sufficient evidence where we could proceed to a trial because there's at least an argument that these facts can be proven, by a preponderance of the evidence. What is the likelihood that this person would actually settle this case to make this go away? So it's whole firms probably who file lawsuits solely based on do they have a claim and will this person settle it and willing to pay 30-40% of what we would probably want in order to make it go away. I agree. That's funny. That's funny. I seen this press conference 4 times a day. You could have paid me enough to do these kind of day in and day out. I couldn't imagine like, and I get it. We need attorneys out there who do like car accidents and stuff like that. I'm just not a big fan of like, hey, how's it? Hey, how's it go? Like, I don't know, like that whole chasing for clients. Like, wait, you were in a car accident by a school bus? Call me. Like, I don't know. It just, I mean, I don't know. People got to do it. There's probably cleaner ways you could do it where it don't seem as, I ain't gonna say it's sleazy, but sometimes it gives kind of creepy vibes. Just the way that those marketings for those attorneys go for myself. Yeah. I think that New York encouraging people to file, they were trying to get support for charging Trump. That's a good point. I didn't think about that. Where they had that survivor statute that allowed people to revitalize those old cases that were outside the statute of limitations. Yeah, Jamie Foxx and a lot of celebrities got caught up in that nonsense. I went through something like that. You never forget. Yeah, that shit stay with you. Trauma is real. What's going on, pretty ass Covington? I appreciate you tuning in. All right, I don't want to stay on here too long, but it was a few stories I saw They were actually all interesting. I'm gonna give y'all a brief synopsis, and y'all let me know which one y'all want me to cover. I do one more because that burned my brain cells watching that video. I do one more before we get out of here. One I thought was interesting. Okay, one was a former judge, assistant district attorney who had bribe allegations, and when the feds came to arrest him, something interesting happened. I'll leave it there. That's story number one. Story number two is we're going to go back to the beautiful state of Illinois with a mayor who was just recently convicted of bribes, and now their township is in absolute chaos and is a shit show because they don't know how they're going to effectively manage the municipality. So those are two. And the third story is more of a damn, it's more of a damn this is fucked up story. It's more of a damn this is a fucked up story because I'm a big boxing guy. I don't know if y'all know, but hey, I love the sweet science. I'm a boxing guy. At one point, I actually was training to become a scorer for boxing matches, professional boxing matches. I would sit on the side and score the rounds, but I was like, I can't do this professionally because I was getting too cut up in the fight. I was like, I'm not marking down the points. So it was kind of I don't know, it was kind of a little wild. So you want story number one? Peace out all, don't be a tip. All right, so let's go ahead. We go to story number one. All right, let me go ahead and get this up real quick. Give me 1 second. Let me cue this video up. I think I saved this in my watch later because I thought, wow, this video is crazy as hell. Man, I got so many videos in here. Okay, yeah, I got it. It's the first video. It's the first video. Come on, this is gonna load. What is this thing doing? Hold on one moment. Oh, there you go. Damn, I was impatient. Okay, we'll leave it. We'll leave it right there. Let me go ahead and let's go ahead. Let me go ahead and cue this video up. Because I saw this and I thought this was a crazy ass DOJ is charging police in Louisville. DOJ is charging people everywhere. Everybody just it's shit going on everywhere. It's actually too much for me to talk about. Like I probably need to just sit down Friday and be like, all right, let's talk about these 4 or 5 things and get into it. Let me go ahead and cue up this video real quick. All right, we'll do the screen. Let's do the screen right there. I heard this story and I thought this was a crazy ass story, but it's interesting because it talks about a lot of the things we talk about: corruptions, bribes, and hey, some people can't deal with what their future reality may or may not be.
We begin with that developing story out of Orange County, and former judge and district attorney under investigation for accepting bribes took his own life as the FBI moved in earlier today.
At some point during the
Ain't that some crazy shit? That's not fucking crazy. Like, bro, like that's I don't know. That's fucking batshit crazy. We know about bribes over at this channel. We know about bribes and people stealing and doing all sorts of wrong and illegal shit, especially politicians. But I heard this. Somebody sent me this, and I was like, "Yo, this is wild." This dude was a former judge, an assistant district attorney. He was taking bribes, and the feds came and just delete. That was it. That's a wrap. That's absolutely insane. Like, yeah, that dude was new. He was not built for prison. He didn't want no parts of it. Like I don't know. I thought that hearing that headline was absolutely crazy. I actually wanted to dive in a little bit farther because I was like, yo, what the fuck? Like, yo, how much did he take? From the looks of that picture, it didn't look like he was in the lap of luxury, but I don't know. That's
Big story out of Orange County, and
get through the
former
whole
judge
story.
and district attorney under investigation for accepting bribes took his own life as the FBI moved in earlier today.
At some point during the chaos, an FBI agent opened fire. Exactly why, now under investigation. Eyewitness News reporter Marcus Solis live in Campbell Hall with the very latest. Marcus.
Well, David and Liz.
Yeah, this happened like 8 days ago, a week ago. Just FYI, yeah, this happened like a week ago.
Well, David and Liz, a senior retirement community here in rural Orange County, an unlikely backdrop for this violent.
God damn, he killed himself in a retirement community. He deleted himself. That's crazy as hell.
Confrontation that took place this morning, but that's exactly what happened as the feds moved in to arrest that former assistant district attorney on bribery charges.
Scary. Sad.
And shocking, a violent end to a scandalous case. Stuart Rosenwasser, a former judge and assistant DA, is dead after an armed confrontation with FBI agents who went to his home to arrest him this morning.
I was standing by the front door. My friend went outside the front door. They screamed at us to get in the house, get in the house.
Sources say Rosenwasser pointed a gun at an agent who fired a shot. Rosenwasser then barricaded himself and it's believed fatally shot himself. A federal grand jury indicted the 72-year-old on bribery charges, accusing him of launching an investigation in 2022 when he was working in the district attorney's office to help a longtime associate. The man, known as Marty Soudani, accused his nephew of stealing nearly $2 million from him. In a text, Rosenwasser allegedly says, "I'm putting maximum effort into this. We will utilize all available assets." Court documents show copies of money orders and checks made out to the lawyer. And in another exchange, Rosenwasser allegedly wrote, "I will always protect you." And
damn, this dude, this might be that might actually be an interesting indictment to read. This is a crazy ass story.
Allegedly wrote, "I will always protect you and help you." Rosenwasser abruptly resigned earlier this year. In a statement, his former boss said, "It's truly heartbreaking that it ended this way. My heartfelt condolences go out to his family." Well, all told, Rosenwasser is accused of taking $63,000 in bribes. The man who allegedly cut those checks also indicted. And we're live in Campbell Hall. Marcus Solis, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
That's a crazy ass story. Like, what? Like $60-something thousand, 72-year-old guy, like 74, whatever. He was 70s is you up there if you're in your 70s. Like, hey, let's just keep it a buck. Like, I ain't gonna say the guy was ancient, but if you're in your 70s, my pops is 70s, and I'm not a spring chicken over here. That's a crazy ass story. I actually may take a look at that indictment. All over $60-something thousand. That's crazy as hell. I don't know. I thought that was a really weird ass, wild ass story. It may be an inappropriate question, but would the price of the house be discounted because of the incident that occurred there? Probably yes. Actually, it probably will. That's always a question I ask. If you were actually purchasing a home, and you're like, oh man, this is like, it's no such thing as a dream home, but you say, this is my dream home. I love everything about it, but you knew that like a terrible crime happened there, would you still be comfortable buying that house? I don't know. A lot of people said they wouldn't buy it, but me, I'm like, nah. Like, hey, a deal is a deal. I'm gonna go around and we're gonna pray over this house, and we're gonna be like, all right, we're gonna get all the chakras in line and everything. But yeah, that's crazy that dude could not deal with what he was about to have to face, which was actually being in custody. Is one of the questions we talked about. They put Diddy on S watch immediately when he got into custody and everybody was like, oh, they're putting him on that because he's a billionaire. To go from being a billionaire to being in custody is such a big leap. He may be a risk to harm himself. You don't got to be a billionaire. It's a big leap to go from being homeless on the street to actually being in custody. Like, being on the homeless and street is one thing, but you don't got to worry about a whole different set of problems versus being in custody. So I don't think it's a wealth thing. I think that just going in custody sucks. I don't give a shit who you are. I don't care if you from the streets. I don't care if you from the burbs. I don't care if you white collar. Man, ain't nothing fun about having to go with prison. And this dude really clearly identified that he couldn't fucking deal with it. He shot himself. A dozen people asked the people with the what did you say? Let's see. Low money. All of these bribes is low money. All of these bribes is low money. It's free fucking flights. It's a fur coat. It's tickets to a game. And I don't even know. Normally, if I were to actually read the indictment, I would look at what his job title is. I'm sure if he's an assistant district attorney, he's a state employee. So you probably can literally Google him and find out what his salary was. So I don't know. But even people who make substantial salaries, they tend to do the silliest shit for just such a small amount of money. I don't know. The shit never don't make any sense to me. Over 67,000 bucks. He didn't check himself out over 67,000 bucks. He checked himself out over the fact that he didn't want to go to prison and be someone's boyfriend, or he didn't want to have to deal with that. It wasn't necessarily over what the money was. Well, it was over what the money was, but he couldn't deal with what the consequences of that was going to be because he knew he wasn't built to be able to stay whatever amount of time that he thought he could potentially get in custody. Yeah, rented as potentially haunted Airbnb. Now, I buy it. As long as their prior occupants are still not occupying the place, I'm selfish. Stop hanging out with the new residents. Facts. Hey, what's going on? Appreciate you for tuning in. Let's see. Just wanted to get through all of this. Oh Lord, you call them Beetlejuice and Candyman and looking in the mirror. Don't do it. Don't do it. But yeah, I don't give a damn if something happens. Terrible stuff probably happened at all the properties. I've never had a home that was like a fresh build from the ground up. And even if you do have a bone that's a fresh build from the ground up, man, it could be somebody in the foundation for all you know. You have no clue. So whatever. I'm like, look here, Ghost. We're gonna have to get along because I ain't leaving, you ain't leaving. You need to just stop throwing shit. All right. That's just kind of what it's gonna be. But yeah, I just wanted to do a little bit of a deep dive into another video. I might look at the indictment with that. But yeah, this guy took himself out over $67,000. It was an absolute shit show. It voted prankster. Yeah. I agree. Yo, that's it for this video. I'm gonna hop off. I think Friday. This video is gonna be probably kind of difficult because it's just a lot. But I got an interesting video that I want to do that somebody sent me on Tiffany Henyard, and if her holding her position as township supervisor and mayor of the village of Dalton is actually a conflict. But it's dope because we've had this discussion before, but there's actual paperwork that was filed with, within local governing bodies presenting this and similar questions to find out if it is in fact a conflict. So it's actually a pretty interesting legal analysis that was done where we can look and be like, yo, this question was answered and shit is either good or it's not good. But it's kind of a deep dive. I might do it Friday. Yeah, I might do it Friday on some late shit Friday. I'll figure it out either Friday or Saturday, one of those days. In any event, hey, I'm about to log off because I need to get up out of this suit. Your boy been wearing it since like 7 in the morning. As always, I appreciate all y'all. Thank you for tuning in. And hey, I want to make content for you all. So if there's anything out there that you wanted me to dive into or talk about, y'all know y'all can hit me up at officialdebtfreedad@gmail.com. That same handle on Instagram. And just shoot me an article, shoot me a message. A couple people have reached out, and I'm definitely more than willing, and we're willing to consider anything you have because I want to provide value to you all. And part of that is talking about the things or giving my attorney perspective on things that you all want me to do. Because, hey, that's the whole point of this, is to entertain you and give you my perspective, and hopefully y'all get some value out of it. So as always, y'all have a good one. Be safe, be blessed. Peace. Let me see. Okay, I'm gonna shout you out. If I got a doc review project, I got you. I'm gonna hit you up. Y'all take care. Have a good one. Peace.